What is up, everyone? Movie Wayne back again with another video. Today is going to be another end of month vlog where I talk about everything I watched in the month of January 2025. Yes, the first month of the year has come and gone, and I've got a few movies on Blu-ray here. Quite a little bunch of this is on Blu-ray, so physical media people, you might be happy about that. Also got a few cinema visits here, a TV show, and some streaming movies to talk about as well, I think. Or I watched online, if you like. So let's just get into the first thing that I watched in January. So the first thing that I watched in January was, in fact, The Witch. This was a first-time watch for me. I have seen all of Robert Eggers' other films, but I've just never checked this one out. And I've always fancied it. I've heard a lot of great things. And he did have Nosferatu coming out, which I'll speak about in a minute. But I couldn't go and see that until about the 4th or 5th of January. I know it came out on the 1st. But I watched this on the 1st or 2nd of January, leading up to that Nosferatu, of course. And I thought this was a phenomenal horror movie. A really great debut film from him. This basically sees Ralph Ineson and his family. He's got a daughter, Anya Taylor-Joy in this, and his wife and everything. And he kind of speaks up about disagreeing with the religion or something in his hometown. And they are kind of banished to the countryside. But Ralph Ineson doesn't want to be with them people because he doesn't agree with them and stuff. And he is adamant that they'll be okay. But as soon as they get there, things start to go wrong. And this just feels like everything is against this family. It feels like they are cursed. The vegetation's running out. Things are happening to family members. I'm not going to get too much into it. I don't want to give anything away, but it really does play on the whole family dynamic, really, and how family relationships can work for good and bad and stuff. And it really does give you questions to each character. You're kind of wondering where all their paths are leading off to, because every character in this movie, including the two very young twins in this, who don't really have anything to do until later on, they've all got a little story path going off there. And I thought this movie was just I really got immersed in it, put it that way. I loved the old English language that Robert Eggers decides to use. It really fits the tone of the movie. I think he captured that time period beautifully. The countryside is all directed amazingly. He's a very good visual director. But it's just that kind of wondering where it's going to go for this family, because at one point they're even thinking about going back to this town, so they're begging for forgiveness because they're that desperate and stuff. Desperation and panic starts to set in. And I will say that this movie has a fantastic ending. I was thinking about it for hours afterwards, going, man, that was a really, really strong movie with a solid ending right there. So you can see why Robert Eggers has gone on to direct even bigger movies. But for a debut film, I thought this was phenomenal. I really did. Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing in this film, along with Ralph Ineson, but you can tell why she's really gone on to have a great career. So yeah, I really do recommend The Witch. Some really creepy moments, especially one scene in the middle involving this witch character and a young boy. I was just like, holy shit, man, that is really visually creepy right there. Robert Eggers catches it beautifully, but also creepily. Yeah, highly recommend this one, and I might add this to the collection at some point. So that is The Witch. Next up, we have Squid Game Season 2, and weirdly, I wasn't hearing anyone talk about this when it came out. As massive as the first show was, I thought everyone would be all over this. But yeah, even people I speak to in work and stuff who watched the first series were like, oh, I haven't watched that second series yet. But you know what? I wasn't expecting much from this. I really enjoyed it. Me and my wife had a great time with this. Probably not as good as the first series, but I don't think it's too far off. I think this is a solid second season. And it's basically got the main character from the first series trying to track down these people who run the Squid Game and stuff and trying to put a stop to it. But it's proving harder than he can imagine, basically. And lo and behold, he sort of gets wrapped into the games again. But while that might seem a little bit far-fetched that he's been thrown back into the games again, you can see why it has all come about. And there is a certain character in this movie who puts himself into the games, and you can't quite believe that he does it. But he was my favourite character in the entire film, and he shouldn't be. I won't say too much more than that, but I thought this was excellent. Some of the games here, man, the pressure cooker was really ramping up. I was like, holy shit. Imagine, all you can think about is, imagine being in this situation. Just imagine having to play this game. It is really cruel what happens to some of these people. And there's a real sort of, I can't explain it because a lot of people want to stay in the game because they see the money sort of going up there, and a lot of people want to get out of the game. There's a new dynamic brought to this where they can vote if they want to stay or go from the games and share what they've got already. And there's always like that conflict going on, which I thought was a very interesting, new fresh approach for this series. And it ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and I was like, man, that's a real weird way to end the second season. But I have heard the third season is coming in July, so I think it was shot back to back there. So I'm really looking forward to that. But if you like the first series of Squid Game, guys, definitely check this out. I thought it was excellent. That's Squid Game Season 2. Next up, we have Nosferatu, the new movie from Robert Eggers, of course. And I was really looking forward to this. I think Nosferatu is due a remake, as people might say that's a perfect movie and stuff. But yes, it's over 100 years old. It's a silent movie. You can't argue that this deserves a remake. And who better to do it than Robert Eggers? He just fits that mold, doesn't he? And this had a really sort of Tim Burton-esque feel about it, with, Robert Eggers' brush painted on it, if that makes sense. It just feels like a little bit more elevated, if you like. But it's a feel rock gothic horror, that you really captured that gothic tone, I think. And this is Nicholas Holt's character, who I just love the resurgence of him now. I think he's excellent. And lots of the movies he picks, he's always making good choices, and he always puts a great performance in. But he is got to go and visit this Count Orlok character, played by Bill Skarsgård. Because Bill Skarsgård wants to sign this thing where he's going to buy a house and come to this town where Nicholas Holt and his wife lives. And there is a connection with Nicholas Holt's wife and this Count Orlok, and that's what the movie plays on, sort of what is going on, what's the mystery between these two characters. And I gotta say, the whole first half of the movie was a great build-up. I was fully invested, going, okay, where's this going now? I'm so sold on this. When we see Count Orlok, it's just a real commanding presence from Bill Skarsgård. I think Robert Eggers does so well to not show you all of him too much until later on in the movie. He's introduced early on, but the shadows kind of dance around his face and stuff. And it does, it just shows you what you need to see. So, yeah, the voice and everything Bill Skarsgård does is just haunting. I think he went to an opera coach and everything to learn how to do this voice. What a performance it is from Skarsgård. But when we get to the second half of the movie, I felt like the first half built up a lot of promise, and it kind of just flatlined out. Now, I don't mean flatlined as in died, but kind of just found a steady balance and went that way. I was expecting a lot more from the second act. Unfortunately, I don't think we got it. But it was still a good second half of the movie. I just don't think it lived up to the promise of the first half. But still, an overall solid film. Another great movie to put on Robert Eggers' CV. And I've heard if you rewatch this, it is a lot better on rewatch. So I will like to watch this again. Maybe I'll grab the 4K or something, but I would like to watch this movie again. And I think my mind might change a little bit more. But Nosferatu, yeah, great movie. I've reviewed it over on my Honor channel, guys, so I'll leave a link for that down below. But yeah, not a bad effort at all from Eggers. And what a Nosferatu remake probably should be. So that is Nosferatu. Next up, we have Upgrade. Now, I was watching all Leigh Whannell's movies along Robert Eggers' movies as well, because I was doing director rankings for both of these over on my Horror channel. So I'll leave the playlist for my director rankings down below. You can see Robert Eggers in there and Leigh Whannell's ranking. And I've also done, Eli Roth as well, before Borderlands come out. So yeah, got them 3 directors in there if you want to go and check them out. But this one was one I hadn't seen. I'd heard a lot of great things about it. And I gotta say, this was an excellent movie, guys. This sees this guy and his girlfriend attacked in a futuristic sci-fi. It feels like it's not too far in the distant future. But these criminals attack them, kill his girlfriend, and he basically is left for dead. And this guy says, look, I can put this chip in you, this AI chip, and it will basically enhance your body. There's people walking around with augmentations. Sorry about that, guys. One of the people who kills his girlfriend has got like a gun implanted into his palm and stuff like that. So these people have got augmentations, and basically that's like the future sort of setting, if you like, where people are basically just enhancing themselves. And this guy puts this chip in him and stuff, and this AI thing starts to talk to him and everything, and it can take control of his body if he allows it to do. It really reminded me of the suit on Spider-Man Homecoming, where it started to talk to him and he had all these new abilities, kind of touching on a little bit of a superhero subgenre there. And he goes and decides to take revenge on these guys. And how the movie plays out is really fun and really interesting. It's kind of a movie ahead of its time because AI is becoming a very big thing now. I know this movie was only like 5 years ago, but it's sort of seeing what was going to happen in the near future. And it really does have questions about AI. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Stuff like that. Plays on that little social commentary there. But there's some great action scenes and everything here. I really love when this AI takes over his body and just takes people out with ease. It's kind of like Neo when he knows he's the one in the Matrix. Just takes the agents out, but with no problem whatsoever. I think this is a really great Leigh Whannell film, and it just shows how much of a great director he is. So definitely worth checking out. That is Upgrade. First Blu-ray of this video, guys, and that is The Lighthouse. Yes, I decided to watch all of Robert Eggers' movies because I was doing that ranking. Hope there's no glare there. Hope you can all see that. I can't actually see the camera. This is a rewatch for me, and I gotta say, this is maybe his, after Nosferatu, it might be visually his best looking film. All set on a different aspect ratio. It's black and white, but he really does take you to the place where these two guys are, on this lighthouse, on this little island, and they're going to work there and just basically maintain the lighthouse and stuff. We've got great performances here from Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe, especially William Dafoe. I think he's one of the greatest actors ever. I do. Every time I see him in things, he's just unbelievable. And basically, it's them two working together and stuff, and then we sort of peel back the layers about their personality, their past, and dig deeper into their life, basically. And them two sort of start going a little bit crazy as the movie goes on. But I gotta be honest, guys, I don't know what this movie is trying to do. I don't really like it. Apart from the performances and the visuals, there's nothing else here for me. I don't get the film. I've watched it twice now, and by the end, I'm like scratching my head, going, "Okay, what was the point in this movie? What was it trying to do there?" Maybe you can explain it to me. I haven't looked up the ending or anything, but I just don't get it. And on rewatch, probably you should be getting it by now, but I just don't know what Eggers is trying to do here. So for me, it's not a film I really like, apart from the positives I talked about. Some people love this movie. I think it's one of the greatest things ever, but it's just Robert Pattinson fantasizing over a mermaid and then sort of seeing the mermaid outside the lighthouse because he's going crazy and stuff. And William Dafoe just walking around acting like a pirate. But he does put a phenomenal performance in, I gotta say. But I just don't get what he's doing. I don't get it. So, not ashamed to admit it. Don't understand this movie. That is The Lighthouse. Next up, we have another Robert Eggers movie, guys, and that is The Northman. I actually went to see this in 2022 at the cinema, and it was one of my favourite films of the entire year. I must admit, when I watched it this time, it did come down a little bit. I had it a 4.5 on Letterboxd. I brought it down to a 4, but I did still really like this. I think this is Eggers' best movie. The ultimate Viking revenge tale, isn't it? Basically, you got Alexander Skarsgård here, and his parents, or his father, is killed as a young boy, and then he sets out to go and live with these horrible people, and then comes back later on to seek revenge on his father, basically. But I couldn't really warm to Skarsgård's character as much when I watched it this time because of some of the bad shit that he's getting up to with these people that he runs off with. I don't know, I just, maybe as a father now and some of bad things are happening to kids in this movie, I just couldn't kind of forgive him for that. It's not really him who's doing it, it's the people he's hanging around with, but he doesn't do anything to stop it. So yeah, that's maybe the reason it come down for me a little bit, but great performances all around. Skarsgård is excellent in this. Robert Eggers directed this wonderfully. There's a scene where they storm a village and it's jaw-dropping to look at. It's mostly all one shot. Couldn't believe how good they filmed that scene. Yeah, and it's just a great revenge tale, basically, put it that way. So that is The Northman. Next up, I went to see Better Man at the cinema. This is the Robbie Williams biopic. Sorry about that, guys. This is the Robbie Williams biopic. And I had no interest in going to see this, but then I heard some YouTubers talk about it, mainly Cody Leach, who said he had no interest whatsoever, but he's seen it at a Fantastic Fest, and he was actually really surprised how much he liked it. And he didn't even know who Robbie Williams is. A lot of Americans don't know who he is. I've seen on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that they are just like, why was this movie made? No one knows who he is. Well, people in Britain does exist, guys. I don't know how well it's done over here in Britain, but I know it's bombed in America. But then, even after I heard him talk about it, I was still like, no, I don't know. And then we went out for a sort of Christmas time visit with our friends, you know, we took the kids and stuff. And two of our friends, Dion and Vanessa, if you're watching, they they went and they seen this movie together, and they said to me, look, you should see it, you'll really like it, I think, even if you don't like Robbie Williams or his music, I think you'll really like it. So my best friend Jamie, who was with us, said, should we go and see it? And I went, come on then, we'll go and see it. Oh my God, I really, really enjoyed this movie. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Robbie Williams. I used to like his music as a kid and stuff, but as a person, he kind of annoys me a little bit. But yeah, I thought this was a really cool little story. I mean, it's a story that you see every day. Pop star becomes famous, gets into drugs and stuff. His career goes down a hill a bit, and then he picks it up. But that's still a decent story to me. I like true stories and stuff. But the fact that this is a monkey, I don't know. It's never explained why he's a monkey, but it kind of just makes you resonate with the character a little bit more. I don't know why. But yeah, decent film, really good biopic. I thought some of the dance scenes and the choreography was excellent, especially the rock DJ scene. So I do highly recommend this, guys, whether you like him or not. I had a great time with this, and it was a real nice surprise. So that is Better Man. Next up, a first time watch for me, and I know this is sacrilege to say, that is The Monster Squad. Yeah, I don't know why I've never got to this, I just haven't. But this is a young group of friends who are visited by the Wolfman and Frankenstein and everything, and they sort of have to take them on. I think Frankenstein actually becomes their friend in this, though. I think it's more like Dracula who they're up against and stuff. And this was a really fun time, guys. I imagine if I watched this back in the day as a kid, I'd have a lot more nostalgia for it, but it just really had that feel, you know, that 80s feel to it, you know, that magic time of the 80s and stuff. So yeah, I like to watch this again. You know, I watched it, had fun with it, and then I thought, I think that's a movie you need to rewatch, and you'll have more fun with it as it goes on. But as someone who just loves horror, and I like a lot of the Universal monster movies, this was really fun to see. There's some really great laughs in here and stuff. Really like the characters, and yeah, just a really fun time. So, would really like to watch this one again. That is The Monster Squad. Next up, we have my older release of the month, and that is Seven. Yes, went to watch this at the cinema, guys, for its 30th anniversary, and I gotta say, this might be the best visit I have at the cinema all year, even though it's 30 years old. I've always wanted to rewatch this, but when I seen that the anniversary was coming up at the cinema, I was like, yes, get me in there. So me and my friend Jamie, who I went to see Better Man with, went and watched this. And man, it's just one of the best films ever made, isn't it? I mean, I love the writing in this movie, how confident the writing is, with how it all pieces together, and how good the ending is, and how the payoff is, the climax. It's just a wonderful film. But a very dark movie as well. It's a real dark thriller, probably the best crime thriller I've ever seen, to be honest. Got Brad Pitt in there, Morgan Freeman, who are basic opposite ends of the spectrum. You know, one of them's about to retire, the other one's an upcoming detective who wants to show how good he is. And sort of Morgan Freeman's character hasn't got time for that. But I love how these two characters connect over the week or so that this movie takes place in, and sort of come together to solve this crime, but they become friends and get to know each other personally and stuff. That's something I really picked up on this time, on this rewatch. But yeah, it's basically all about a serial killer going around committing the 7 deadly sins. But how this movie all comes together with its ending and stuff is amazing. The city this takes place in just gives off a real dark, bleak tone where you just know danger is around every single corner. Yeah, Seven is just a wonderful movie, and it's not even my favorite Fincher film, which shows how good of a director he actually is. But I've done a full review on Seven, guys, on my horror channel, even though this is a thriller, really. I'll leave the link to that down below. You want to go and check out spoiler thoughts and everything. You know, it's down there. So yeah, Seven, all the release of the month. What a film this is. Next up, we have my most anticipated movie of 2025, believe it or not, and that was Wolfman. And this is the new movie from Leigh Whannell, who's had 3 for 3 for me, to be honest. And this one, unfortunately, wasn't 4 for 4. Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't mind this film, but it was a huge disappointment. This series, this guy, I forgot the guy's name, I'm really sorry. And his wife, Julie Garner, and their daughter go and stay at this cabin where he used to stay as a kid because his father's been declared dead. And he's got this cabin and the keys, and they go and stay out there because they want to kind of save their crumbling marriage a little bit there. But on the way, they're attacked by a creature. Well, he is attacked by a creature, and he starts to turn into this werewolf very, very slowly throughout the second half of the film. And it becomes like an isolation type film because that creature is roaming around outside while the father is turned into one himself. And it kind of becomes this pressure cooker situation where Julie Garner and her daughter have to kind of make a decision to whether to get out of there and risk being torn to shreds or stay here with this father who's becoming more and more dangerous as the movie goes on. But I gotta say, this is more reminiscent of The Fly, where it feels like a body horror film instead of a werewolf movie because how slow the main character is deteriorating over this film. I like the practical effects here. A lot of people have complained about them, but seeing these fingernails fall off and him slowly morph into this creature, I thought was really good. My biggest problem with the film is it just feels like there's so many long drawn out scenes where nothing is happening. Julie Garner will try and get the radio to work and she can't quite do it. She's just pressing some buttons and stuff, and that goes on for a while. Then he'll have his daughter speaking to him, going, "What's happening to you, daddy?" And he can't quite communicate back because he's looking really ill and stuff, and that goes on for a while. It's just a long drawn out film, which at times was sometimes, I hate saying this about movies, a little bit boring. But there was a lot to like. I just wish it could have been better. I wish he could have done a great job like he did with The Invisible Man, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. However, I gave it 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Looking back on it now, maybe a 2.5 would have sufficed. It's okay. It's okay. It's definitely not one of the best werewolf movies I've ever seen or anything like that. Probably wouldn't even be in the top 10. So that is Wolfman. Okay, guys, I got that one a bit mixed up. I was meant to be talking about the Wolfman 1941, which I did watch before Wolfman, so sorry about that. They are in reverse order. I did watch Wolfman 1941 and then go and watch Wolfman. So I'm just going to talk about Wolfman 1941 now. I did watch this leading up to Wolfman. I was planning on reviewing this over on my horror channel, but I didn't quite get to it. However, I think this is on par to be the best werewolf movie ever made alongside American Werewolf in London. I can't quite decide. I did think this is the best, but I'm not sure. It might be number 1. It might be. But a great Universal monster movie. Lon Chaney Jr. is just awesome in this film. And basically, it sees him be attacked by a werewolf as he's out trying to woo this woman who works in the antique shop, who he's really into and really has got the hots for, and basically he just becomes a werewolf. It's a very, very simple story. I don't think there's too much deep analysis to have with this film. If I reviewed it, probably would have only been about 5 minutes long or something like that. But it's just simple but effective, you know. And I think I liked a lot of the werewolf lore they put in there. Really like the chemistry between him and the main actress in this film. What I love about these movies, I know this might sound daft, guys, but these movies from the 40s, 50s and stuff, I can just hear every single line of dialogue they say. There's movies now when I watch it going, what the fuck did they say then? They are just brilliant actors. They put their heart and soul into it. I'm not saying actors today are bad or anything like that, but they just give off a different vibe. I just think they are more theatrical, if you like, and I don't know, they just seem a lot more connected like you can connect to them more. I don't know. It's just the way I see it. I never ever mishear a line of dialogue when I'm watching movies from this era. I know that's going off on a little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, Lon Chaney Jr. is a great Wolfman in this film. An exceptional movie, put it that way. So that is The Wolfman from 1941. I think I'm losing my mind, guys. I'm really sorry about this, but I was meant to hold this up for The Wolfman 1941, and I was meant to hold this up for 7. I did promise you that I had a batch of Blu-rays here, so please do forgive me for that. I'm sorry. Yeah, oh man, it's been a long day at work. So yeah, sorry about that, guys, but just to show you them there, I do own these on Blu-ray. Okay, guys, going into this box set now, and that is The Mummy on 4K. And I'm just going to talk about the first one here. You'll hear me talk about the second one next month. But this is The Mummy. Yeah, I did see this film as a kid, and I thought it was okay, but I didn't remember anything about it, to be honest. And I just fancied getting this box set because I thought, you know what, they're really fun films, and I'd like to watch them again. And it was my dad got me this for Christmas a couple of years ago, to be honest. I had it on my Blu-ray list. And yeah, this was fun. It feels like a bit of an Indiana Jones film at times. Seeing Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz basically in Egypt, and this mummy comes back, who is this guy from years ago who was mummified and stuff, and they have to basically take him on. I think they're sort of searching for something as well. I can't quite remember, to be honest, guys. I watched this about a month ago, near the start of in the middle of the month, sorry, and I was really tired watching it, but the CGI in this film kind of took me out of it a little bit. I mean, it's really bad CGI. I think this is like when CGI was becoming a real big thing now, and they really play on it, and that's the thing that took me out the movie most. It's really bad. It's not Anaconda levels of bad, but it's only a step up the ladder, I think. But yeah, it's a fun enough film. I think there's good characters in here, like Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and stuff. I liked it setting in Egypt. It looks great on 4K, I must admit. Absolutely phenomenal looking movie. But overall, it was okay. I give it 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd there. So that is The Mummy. Next up, we have Insidious Chapter 3. Yes, another Leigh Whannell film. And like I said, I was just doing a Leigh Whannell ranking. So I watched this 3rd chapter. And this is actually a prequel, so you can jump into this straight away, really. And I gotta say, this is on par with the first one to be my favourite in the series. I really like what Leigh Whannell does here with the story. He's got this young girl who is hit by a car, and she's starting to see this demon who has like a breathing mask on and stuff, and he's haunting her in her nightmares, but she's also trying to connect to her mother, but it sort of allows this demon in as well. And she gets the help of Lin Shaye's character, who's basically retired from doing all these mediums and stuff and looking into the further. But she comes back to help this girl because she really, really needs her help. And Lin Shaye has also got this demon haunting her every time she goes into the further, and that's why she stopped. But I like the way the movie has got 2 stories going on. One for this young girl trying to connect to her mother and stuff and fight this demon off, but also Lin Shaye trying to overcome this demon who keeps trying to strangle her every time she meditates or whatever. So yeah, got them 2 good story arcs going on there, and it does lead to Lin Shaye getting back into this and teaming up with them 2 guys who help her with their business and stuff. And this is how they meet and stuff. This also introduces that storyline. Now, this movie is really creepy for an hour, and I was loving it. It really does play on the horror tone and nothing else. My only problem with it is in the 3rd act, them 2 guys who are the ghost hunters come in, and it goes a little bit too comedic and sort of loses the horror tone, which I wish Leigh Whannell never done. But overall, it's still a pretty solid movie, a solid entry into the Insidious franchise, and I thought I think it could be better than the first, put it that way. Not quite sure on that. I'd have to rewatch them all, but an excellent movie from Leigh Whannell. Really cool take. After doing this, after the second one, which was a terrible movie in my opinion, I don't like the second one at all. That is Insidious Chapter 3. And after that, guys, I watched The Invisible Man. I've seen this once at the cinema in 2020, and it was actually my 2nd favourite movie of the year, just behind The Gentleman. And yeah, another great movie from Leigh Whannell. This is probably his best film, in my opinion. basically does a modern take on that Universal monster, if you like. It's got Elizabeth Moss, who's in a toxic relationship with this tech genius, and he sort of is killed, and she doesn't believe that. She believes that he's still alive and he's faked his own death and stuff. And he has got this suit that can make him invisible, and she fully believes that that is possible because he's so good at technology, and he's well advanced and stuff, and that is actually what is the case. Now, what I think Leigh Whannell does here is really make scenes feel creepy by filming nothing. Like, he's filming a room, and you just know this guy is in there, and just the way he pans the camera and stuff works wonders. I know that sounds really lazy filmmaking, but it's not. It's really effective what he does here. Elizabeth Moss puts a great performance in here. I really like her as the main protagonist. You really do feel sorry for her. People think she's losing her mind and stuff like that because this guy is just toying with her. There's a scene in a restaurant later on where I was like, holy fucking shit. That is one of the most what the fuck moments I've ever seen at the cinema. Really great third act as well, with it really ramps up there, and bodies are flying left, right, and centre. Awesome movie, guys. Really enjoyed it a second time. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. That is The Invisible Man. Next up, guys, this was almost my older release of the month, but if it wasn't for 7, it would have got it. And that is Red Rocket. Kind of bought this on a whim. I just heard a lot of people say it's a good movie, but I didn't really know too much about it. Fucking hell, what a film this was. I absolutely loved it. My first Sean Baker film. I really want to watch all his other movies now. I've just picked up the Florida Project. I'm going to be watching Anora next week when my wife goes out, because I've heard there's a lot of sex in there, and I was just like, oh, she'll think I've just picked this to watch the sex scenes. So I'll watch that when she goes and watches Craig David next week with her friends. But this man, oh my god, a slice of American life. This sees this guy who's an ex-porn star going home to this little downtrodden town that he used to live in the outback of Texas, and asks his ex-wife, or no, his current wife, should I say, who he hasn't spoke to for years, if he can come and crash there, and he'll give them money and stuff like that just while he gets life back on track. And they accept, and it's just fun to see the little family dynamic she has here with her and her mother. And I don't even think these people are like proper actors. I'm not quite sure. They haven't been in much when I looked it up, but it just gives off such a realistic vibe. It's kind of like Shane Meadows if he was American, if that makes sense. That's the whole thing I felt here. But the guy in this movie, man, what's his name? Oh, Rex something. I'm really sorry, guys. I need to know his name. Simon Rex. I think he's like a rapper or something. I don't think he's been in much. I'm not quite sure, but fucking phenomenal performance by him. Sorry, I don't mean to keep swearing, but he was excellent in this film, guys. I can't even explain why I loved it so much. Like, nothing much even happens. It's just him being a toe rag and being very sly and stabbing people in the back here and there. But it's a wonderful film. I just couldn't take my eyes off it. I thought it was excellent. I loved the whole location that this takes place in. I love the characters. I just thought it was amazing. I really did. And I can't wait to check out Sean Baker's other movies now. Highly, highly recommend this film, guys. It's wonderful. That is Red Rocket. Next up is another little bit of a blind buy. Well, I did ask my wife to get me this for Christmas because it did come to the UK last year. And I've always wanted to see it. And that is Action Jackson. Mainly because Carl Weathers is in this as a more action-orientated film. I gotta say, I didn't love it as much as I thought I was. It's a very cheesy movie. I actually like the cheesiness in it. The storyline is all over the place. Like, this movie is just trying too much. But it's basically about Carl Weathers trying to take down this guy who's a real rich bastard who is... Basically, that's what he is, a bastard. You mean he's not a nice person, put it that way. But he's like corrupt, if you like. And he tries to do it with the help of Sharon Stone, and I don't know if that is that vanity. And I just can't quite explain what the story is, because so many things are happening in this film. It's kind of a comedy at times, some of the stuff in this. Like, there's this guy who says, oh, we're going to get Action Jackson to deal with you. Like these two police officers say, Action Jackson's going to deal with you. And then he sees him in the precinct and he just faints because Carl Weathers is just so big and stuff. And every time he sees Carl Weathers on the street, he just faints or run away. It's stuff like that. But yeah, it's not bad. It's enjoyable enough. I didn't hate it. I was just a little bit disappointed by it. But that is Action Jackson. Next up, we have Into the Deep, a brand new shark movie, which I have reviewed over on my horror channel. Leave it in the link down below, guys. I always see these shark movies every month and every year. There's one or two that catch my eye, and this had Scout Taylor Compton in and Richard Dreyfuss, who's done the first shark movie in 50 years. I thought, you know what, I'm going to give that a go. Maybe this is the one. That'll be a lot of fun. And I gotta say, guys, it was a little bit of a disappointment. Basically, this sees Scout Taylor Compton, who's got to overcome her fears because her father died in a shark attack years before. Very standard story arc going on here. She goes back to that sort of part of the ocean and decides to help her friends find some treasure there and just overcome her fears. But of course, the sharks are still there. And then these pirates come along and sort of force them to go down because coincidentally, they've just done a drug drop there. So it's a little bit over ambitious for its own good. However, I did like the whole dynamic with these pirates. They were sort of cartoonish villains and stuff. Not very well acted, but it still brought a fun tone to the movie, I thought. But the shark action is still front and center. You know, if you come here for that, there's a lot of it here. The CGI in the sharks isn't even that bad, I must say. It was quite good. It's the CGI blood that looked bad. I mean, everything up to people being killed is fine, and then the blood just takes you out of it. It really is bad looking, I gotta say. What really I didn't like about this film, I gotta say, is when we're in the shark action and stuff, Scout Taylor Compton's character will remember something. And then we'll just do a flashback scene to her and Richard Dreyfuss, who's her grandfather, getting swimming lessons, or him saying, you got to overcome your fears and stuff. This happens about 8 or 9 times throughout the film, and it just totally destroys the pacing. Every time it happened, I was just getting more and more frustrated. So yeah, Richard Dreyfuss doesn't actually battle any sharks in this. He just filmed his scenes in a couple of days, I think. I'm going to say Scout Taylor Compton puts a good performance in here. I've always liked her. I like Rob Zombie's Halloween too. I think she puts a phenomenal performance in that. And here is no different. You know, she's a really good actress, I think. Overall, guys, just another crappy shark movie that we get every year now. That is Into the Deep. Next up, we have The Damned, which is one of the first horror movies to come out this year, I think. It came out very early in January. And this series, a bunch of characters are on this like fishing post up in the Icelandic mountains or something like that. Might be Norway, I can't quite remember. Back in the 1800s and stuff. But they are sort of running out of food and stuff, and they are starting to resort to feeding themselves with their bait that they have to catch the fish with and stuff. These characters come along who are in need of help, and they have to make big decisions whether to help these characters or not, because they're already running low on supplies, and they don't know if they can feed them all and help them anyway. It's going to put them in more danger. I won't say too much more than that, but once these characters do come along, the movie starts to go down a more sinister path. And the movie really plays on decisions, like what your choices may define you and for the people around you, and what it could mean. And should you have done something different and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very slow film. I can see a lot of people being bored by this, but I kind of got invested. I thought it was fine. Good performances all around and stuff. The guy from Peaky Blinders in there, the younger brother, John, I thought he'd done a good job. And the third act, while it doesn't exactly amp it up a lot, it's a really enjoyable third act where things start to get really into the horror subgenre. The horror genre, should I say. So yeah, not a bad movie, guys. A lot of people may not like it, but I thought it was okay. So that is The Damned. Next up, we have Grafted, a new horror movie that came to Shudder, and this sees this young woman who is... Sorry, her father has got this real good experiment going on where he can just graft skin onto other skin, and he can do it with ease, basically, and something goes wrong when he's trying to do it, and he dies, basically, and it's up to her to carry on his research and fully get this sort of scientific experiment that he had out there and into fruition and make it work. And she goes to high school. This is like 20 years later, and she is like a wonderful scientist. And things start to go in a really horrific direction about halfway through the film involving this young woman. I don't want to say too much with that because it can give stuff away, but this is a really cool body horror movie, I gotta say. It's kind of like Mean Girls meets The Reanimator. I mean, that's what it says on the tagline, and that's not me saying that, but I fully agree with that. That's exactly what I felt like. So you can imagine where the directions might go. Some interesting things happen, put it that way, in the body horror type of things. So there is a suspension of disbelief that you have to put in involving the other characters and how they see things that are going on, because they don't quite notice and you're like, really? But like I said, I can't get into it too much, guys, but I did really enjoy this film. I do recommend it, especially if you like body horror. The CGI sometimes is a little bit off-putting, but I still think this is worth checking out. That is Grafted. Next up, we have a Brian De Palma film that I've had in the collection for a while, and that is Body Double. Now, this is basically all about this struggling actor who is helped by another struggling actor who's going away for a few days, and he says, you can crash at my place, blah, blah, blah. And he's got this telescope, and he's looking at this woman across the street, and this all takes place in Hollywood and stuff. And she is killed, and he basically wants to get to the bottom of it, kind of like a Rear Window type movie. Yeah, Craig Wasson is in this, who was in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. He's like the doctor, you know. I've only ever seen him in that and this, but I think he does a pretty good job in this film. He has to do some weird things, but I think he was quite good in this. Really good mystery, you know. I didn't really like the whole climax of the film, but everything leading up to that, I was like, this is really interesting. There's a scene where he is following this woman. It goes on for like 40 minutes, but it was the best part of the movie. You're like, how long is this going on for? But I kind of digging what's going on here. Yeah, really good Brian De Palma film, I think. I just wasn't fully paid off by the ending, personally. It wasn't executed all that well, but everything leading up to it was fun, I thought. So that is Body Double. And lastly, guys, we do have Presence, which this is a movie that all takes place from the perspective of the ghost that lives in this house. And this family, Lucy Liu and her family, move into this house, and everything we see is from the ghost's point of view. It's kind of like a found footage film, really. And I gotta say, I'm not sure this is actually exactly full horror or anything, but I got fully invested in this family. It's more of a family drama, and you dig in the conversations that they have and the dialogue. It all just works. Steven Soderbergh directs this film really well, I think. This is going to be his lowest budget movie, surely. And it goes somewhere where you sort of question, is this ghost really the most of their worries when there's other things going on in her life and stuff? And a certain character comes into the fray where I was like, I don't like him. And, straight on from the off, and I won't say too much more than that, but it kind of all plays out with this character and the other two kids in the family. That's the main sort of focus, I think. But yeah, I was really surprised by this one. I really enjoyed it. It's only 85 minutes long. It absolutely flew by. It doesn't overstay its welcome. The whole gimmick works for the whole entire film. And I just got into it. I was thinking after it, man, I really enjoyed that. So yeah, decent movie, worth checking out. That is Presence. Okay, guys, hope you all enjoyed this end of month vlog. What did you think of these movies? Please comment down below and I'll get back to you all, I promise. And yeah, thanks so much, guys. Don't forget to check out my horror movie reviews, the horror channel. I'll leave some end of month vlogs down below if you want to check them out as well. Thanks so much, guys. You take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.